Jesus. Jesus called me. Jesus called me Peter. But you should probably call me Simon. Simon was my old name. Sometimes Jesus would use it as a wake-up call. When he was trying to get my attention, when I was walking in my old ways, when I wasn't walking in his way, when I didn't have my eyes where his eyes were. When I was walking my old ways, he'd called me by my old name, which is why tonight of all nights, you should probably call me Simon. The crazy thing is, Jesus told me this was going to happen. We were eating dinner, the 13 of us, and everything was so good because Jesus was there. Yeah, there was the foot washing thing, but still, everything was so good because Jesus was there. Judas left early. Now I know why. But everything was still so good because Jesus was there. So imagine how it felt when he said that he was going to have to go away from us. Away from us. So I asked him, Lord, where are you going? He responded, where I am going, you cannot follow me now, but you will follow afterward. Afterward? That doesn't work for me. See, I'm a disciple. I'm a follower of Jesus. That's my identity. So I said, thinking that maybe he was protecting me from something I couldn't handle, Lord, why can I not follow you now? I will lay down my life for you. His eyes didn't look condescending. They didn't look disappointed. But he asked me, will you lay down your life for me? I got the feeling I should remain silent, which is a feeling I get a lot. So I did remain silent, which is not something I do a lot. And Jesus said, truly, truly, I say to you, which is always how he would start a sentence if he thought I was going to hear his words without listening to what he's saying. There's a big difference between hearing Jesus' words and listening to what he's saying. Truly, truly, I say to you, the rooster will not crow until you deny me 3 times. Have you ever had somebody say something to you and it just sticks in your mind? That sat with me all night. I was going to deny Jesus? I could see a few of the other guys maybe denying him, but I wouldn't. I'm a follower of Christ. I'm a disciple. I'm here because I want to follow in his steps. And if that steps to death, I'll do it. And I made up my mind right then and there that if an opportunity came later to prove to him that I was truly devoted to him, even unto death, I was going to prove it. We went from dinner to a garden, Gethsemane. It's a place that we've all spent a lot of time together. That's probably how Judas knew to find us there. We had no idea what he was up to. Well, the 11 of us didn't anyway. And he did not come alone. No, he brought officers and soldiers and chief priests and all their servants, and they were carrying lanterns and torches and weapons. Who did they think they were coming out to confront? This is Jesus of Nazareth. He's not some political revolutionary, though that's who a lot of his followers would like him to be. He's not some criminal, though that's what a lot of the religious leaders would like him to be. But see, that's the thing about Jesus. Jesus isn't who anybody wants him to be. He is who he is. And all of the officers and soldiers and chief priests and lanterns and torches and weapons did nothing but demonstrate their insecurity about him. And it was like Jesus was expecting them. He stepped out from among us and said, "Whom do you seek?" "Jesus of Nazareth," they replied. What he said next reads differently in English than it does in my language. In English, Jesus said, "I am he." In my language, he just said, "I am." I'm not sure exactly what happened. It was pretty dark. But it reminded me of this time where Jesus was confronted by the religious leaders. And he said, and I quote, "Before Abraham was, I am." As in the great I am. As in Yahweh, the covenant name of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He was claiming to be God, and they knew it. And they picked up stones to kill him on the spot. But he retreated. He escaped. He was really good at escaping. This time, though, when Jesus said, "I am," he didn't retreat. They did. Sort of. All of the officers and soldiers and chief priests and their servants with their lanterns and torches and weapons drew back and fell on the ground. I remember seeing him standing there with all of them looking up at him. They collected themselves, and Jesus, ever patient, said, "Whom do you seek?" This time they said it with a little more hesitation. "Jesus of Nazareth." "I already told you that I am he. If it is me that you seek, then let these men go." Even facing his own arrest, he was worried about us. He never lost track of any of us. It was like we were his sheep, and he was our shepherd. He was always counting to 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And even here, with Judas on that side of this exchange, he's still counting to 12. He never lost track of any of us. And then I realized this is my opportunity. He's never lost track of me, and I'm not losing him either. And so I drew my sword, and I swung it at the servant of the high priest. But it was dark, and I cut off his ear. And Jesus grabbed my wrist and said, "Put your sword in its sheath. Shall I not drink the cup the Father has given me?" No matter how many times he set me straight, it still always managed to surprise me. And then he reached down and he picked up the ear of the high priest's servant, touched it to the side of his head, and healed him. And I wish he was here to heal me now. Jesus called me. He called me Peter. It means rock, strength, fortitude. But you should call me Simon. They arrested him. They were efficient. He didn't put up a fight. I followed at a safe distance. I wasn't sure what this mob was capable of. I started thinking about how painful death might be. I didn't want to be guilty by association. One of the other disciples who had more credentials than me got us into the space where Jesus was, and there was a servant girl there. And she said, "Aren't you one of his disciples?" Now, a disciple of Jesus Christ is my identity. I am a follower of Jesus Christ. And when she asked me, "Aren't you one of his disciples?" I said, "I am not." To a child. They hauled Jesus away to be questioned by the high priest. They hauled Jesus away. Jesus who called me Peter. You should call me Simon. It was starting to get cold. Some of the servants had set up a fire. It was a charcoal fire, which is the perfect fire to go find if it's cold outside and you want to lay low, because it's all heat and no light. And while Jesus was being questioned by the high priest, while the officer of the court was striking him across the face for bearing the truth about himself, I was warming my hand by the fire. I heard a voice say to me, "You're not one of his disciples, are you?" I didn't want to have to go find a new place to be. So one more time I said, "I am not." Jesus called me Peter. You should call me Simon. And while Jesus was being cross-examined by the high priest, the servant of Jesus was then cross-examined by the servant of the high priest. I heard another voice say, "Didn't I see you with him in the garden?" I looked up, and I could hardly believe my eyes. It was the relative of the man whose ear I had cut off. Certainly my face was not one he could forget. And yet, I denied Jesus again. Jesus called me Peter. You should call me Simon. After everything he did for me, after he warned me that I would deny him, after he led James and John and I up that mountain and showed us his glory, after he caused our boat to fill to overflowing with fish, after he called me to walk on the water, and I had enough faith to get out of the boat, but not enough focus to get across the water to him, after I was sinking. And I reached up my hand, and I said, "Save me, Lord!" And he reached down and snatched me up out of the sea. I still denied him. I still denied him. I counted my own fear as bigger than he is. I counted my own comfort as more treasured than his presence. I counted myself as the one who needed to die for him, when in reality, he was the one who needed to die for me. And all of it leads me to this unbearable conclusion that I am completely unworthy of Jesus. I am completely unworthy of his call. I'm completely unworthy of his presence. I'm completely unworthy of his sacrifice. Jesus called me Peter. So call me Simon. Oh Lord, I wish you were here to call me Simon. Call me Simon. I cast my mind to Calvary, where Jesus bled and died for me. I see his wounds, his hands, his feet, my Savior on that cursed tree. His body bound, drenched in tears, they laid him down in Joseph's tomb, the entrance sealed by heavy stone. Messiah still and all alone.